And today is August 6th.
So I do have one question for the agenda then. Do we still need this working group?
Well, we haven't officially met our exit criteria. I feel if we can resolve the... So Marin, I don't know if you followed the conversation in the working group channel about, I tried to implement this with my team, and there was, like, essentially, I think what we've done is we've described a bunch of behaviors instead of competencies or outcomes, and listing the behaviors. Like, so where I struggled was with the execution of rolling this out for my team. And I know we deliberately initially said that the working group scope is not to create a toolkit or templates for people to use. However, one of the exit criteria of the working group is saying that, like, what we define works. Was doing a pilot with somebody using it in their team and having success with it. I don't feel we can accurately say that we've passed that. Because, for instance, I haven't rolled this out with my team. I chose not to because it was not because I had concerns. And then Rose and I discussed my concerns, and essentially it's not that what we have is wrong. It's more about how we package it. That is my view. We've got these company-wide value and remote competencies, and then we have behaviors that are listed underneath them as an example of how it, but what we don't have, for instance, on the engineering side is the competencies with the behaviors listed as examples. We seem to have more just behaviors listed without the competency part. And that for me was one of my concerns around the the inconsistency with how the rest of the company competencies are being handled versus how we're going about it. And also there was just an enormous amount of them, too many.
Yeah, I didn't like that as well.
Yeah, Rose and I discussed that, for instance, all of the development values, behaviors that we have, are actually captured in the company values now, because they use the development values as a baseline to work with originally. So talking about taking that away. And so I think we probably just have a job to be done in terms of grouping what we have right now a bit better. So it sounds trivial, but it is actually quite important from a practical rollout point of view. And so what I don't think is that we need massive meetings to resolve this. This is all stuff that can be done asynchronously, and we can work on that. So that I would summarize as the state of play in my mind at this stage.
Okay, so I'm okay with that, but I do have to share that I've been doing something a bit different that I'm getting ready to share with my department, which is I spent some time collecting some data on how other companies are doing this. I kind of feel we missed that, like we didn't dedicate that much time to do that. And I think there is nothing wrong with not being very specific about this. I think a lot of these things can be achieved by training the managers and the team not to have like a already prescribed formula. I think we are a bit spoiled in engineering at this company that everything is very clearly and strictly defined. So when ambiguity comes in, it feels like everyone just gives up or starts struggling rather, right? Because we are so clear about this. And fortunately or unfortunately, humans are not straightforward and clear, right? It's not, okay, now you fulfill this and you're done. Like it is way more than that. And I'm trying to not yeah, not set expectations that this is going to be a magical thing that people will be able to just follow and everything is going to be great and done. Like I would rather roll something out and improve it over time, but based on the direction we set, which was company and engineering values or competencies that we expect, and then define and redefine every step of the way, actually, right? Like it feels wrong, but if you keep the base consistent and constant, it's not going to feel like you're changing rules while playing the game. That's at least the approach that I'm taking. And then infrastructure also added this as an OKR. So we are going to be driving this whole thing as an OKR this quarter. I'm kind of wanting to approach it a bit that way because I feel like there are too many cooks in the kitchen.
I'm interested to hear in terms of your research, looking at how other companies do it. Did you find anything substantially different from us? What we plan to do?
No, not substantially different. Like if obviously the one substantial difference is no one has 85 competencies.
Yes, and I think that was my initial takeaway from the reaction from my team members when I took them through this. It's just like, this is a lot. And then I actually had a discussion with my mentor and got his view. And they have this very similar structure, you know, and I discussed it with Rose on the call. But what it comes down to is the amount of competencies essentially is about 10 to 15. And they use the behaviors just as examples of you know, things that show that you're competent in this competency. So I think for me to really kind of like put a bow around this and be comfortable moving forward, it's more just a cosmetic exercise of grouping things a bit clearer and you know, because for instance, I looked at there was a couple of I actually don't have the spreadsheet, but I think I mentioned it on the call. Is this I think it was around being a mentor. There was a couple of behaviors defined, which actually say the same thing in a way, but yeah, just slightly different. And I guess that is the risk you have when you kind of like cascade things and then combine them. So yeah, I think, you know, like what we have, I believe in. I don't think there's anything wrong with what we have. I think it's more just about packaging it nicely,
presenting it better. Yeah. So I linked in the agenda something that I found that I honestly think like it's my favorite of all of the things that I found. It's how Patreon does engineering leveling. And when I read this, and when I write, like the interface is also like simple, but it's also nice to operate in. When I read this is something that I meant, immediately thought like, it would be great if we have something like this. It's not overwhelming. It's very well presented. It has a baseline, and then also has enough differences between the levels to clearly understand where in the level you are. Obviously, there are items in here that I don't really agree with. Like it's not a silver bullet, obviously, but it's I kind of use it as a guideline as well because it's so well presented.
Yeah. I'm just having a quick scan over it.
What I also like about this is it uses words that are general enough so that you can apply it across the disciplines we have. Like one thing that I think we decided early on was that not everything applies to everyone, which I don't know if I fully agree. There are ways of saying things where you can figure out whether something is applicable to you or not. Like one of the things here where I see, like, for example, in the technical competencies is may participate in on-call rotation if applicable for their domain. Great, covers everyone. Yeah. There are different levels of on-call rotation. It doesn't have to be someone carrying a pager. It can be right? Like that escalation we have, or I don't know, UX is triaging something, or that's all on-call rotation as well. So, right, like there are ways to do that. But again, like this is something that I kind of used as a checkpoint periodically for myself.
Yeah, I like the execution they have here, and especially the filtering, to be able to kind of like see things in, and the guidelines, how they, this is almost what I feel like is missing from our final output. It's just the packaging of how, and some guidelines.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, I take your point, like it, just because we didn't package it and didn't kind of like put a nice bow over it, doesn't mean it can't be used right now. My kind of like concern was just like, people know we've been working on this and they might be underwhelmed with what we put out if we don't communicate it properly, and make it clear. And we might end up with something that is more confusing, and people are less, specifically because GitLab is such a specific company with documenting everything clearly, and so on. In just putting like from the behaviors and stuff that we've defined, I certainly believe they're an improvement over what we had. They're less ambiguous. They're more specific in certain places, and I think that was definitely a step in the right direction. I just feel like we need to probably package it better, and I think we had a discussion on Slack even, or on the issue somewhere, about maybe putting the stuff in a YAML file, because then we could easily generate a page like what we have here as an example on Patreon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm yet to see a place where everything is perfect.
Yeah, that's
right?
also true.
And I understand the complaints, but in my opinion, right now we don't really have anything really. So rolling something out that is not fully finished is not the worst.
We do have something. We do have the existing career matrix.
I know,
and
but
we have those spreadsheets that people have been using.
Right, but what
we actually had somebody ask for a similar type spreadsheet with the new stuff in it.
But that's not. So that's, I think, where we are possibly then failing from the start. Like we should have either made a decision to use a spreadsheet and say that everyone has to use a spreadsheet, or say that no one uses a spreadsheet in a company prescribed way. If you work with your manager and that is the medium you want to use to track your career, then it's perfectly fine. That's why I also kind of liked your proposal from a couple of months ago, where you shared the epics and all of that.
Board.
Yes, because that should be known to everyone in the company, right? Like it's the tool that we all use day to day. And then the argument becomes less about like the tooling, it becomes like, how do we make the tooling better, right? But right now we are, like, I know I used both docs and sheets and one-on-one docs with people to work on career development with them. And the medium got adapted to the people, right? Like not everyone is as methodical. So I want to correct one of my statements before. Like when I said we don't have anything, I didn't mean that. I meant we don't have anything that we can stand behind right now and say use it, because we are in this in-between state. Everyone knows that we have the new thing coming up. The old thing is not really usable anymore then. So we are now in this vacuum. So
yeah, okay, yeah, I understand. I think my concern is that in the absence of having, like, we have a varying degree of manager expertise. We have some managers who recently moved up from an IC role, and they might struggle with, like, how do I take these things, and how do I execute that with my team members? And in the absence of having that, having some standard thing is a good thing, as a, hey, here's a standard approach of how you can go about it if you don't have a better way of doing it. But then when you have managers who are a bit more experienced and who will either create their own way, like I've gone and create GitLab projects for each team member's personal development, and I've got markdown files in there and I've got issues for them in there. Or somebody might want to use a spreadsheet. And it's okay for them to use something different because we give you the freedom to do what is right. You know, it's not a one size fits all solution. But having that void almost of having just a standard thing that can be used, I almost want to compare it to the compa ratio things we needed to do last year. You know, there was the spreadsheet that you could use as if you wanted to. It wasn't mandatory, but you could use it, and at least it gave somebody something to work with if they weren't comfortable or confident in doing something different. So that would be my only concern. But even that, I would say I would be comfortable falling back to the let's not hold on to something forever before it's perfect kind of thing, and put it out there and keep iterating on it. My concern is just we've seen a lot of these things fall by the wayside if there isn't focus on it. So how long would it take to iterate on this if we don't have a group focusing on it?
Well, that is a very valid concern, and I'm there with you 100%. So that I don't even want to spend much time on because we are in agreement. But the thing that you said earlier about having varying degrees of experience in management is not the problem we are trying to resolve here, right? Like that problem is being resolved by training, and it's being resolved by training the managers. And that is something that we will have to work with Rose and right, like the training team to get the newer managers up to speed or retrain the existing managers to use a certain system, right? Like that is how we handle that. But if you try to achieve both at the same time, we're going to fail at both at the same time.
Yeah, I guess then it's about, you know, when we wrap up, making clear what next steps would be considered to be taken, you know, to train managers on this and helping them, you know, execute this with their team.
How about something radical, like another radical suggestion from me today? I'm in that mood.
You're on a roll.
Yeah.
It's really warm in Amsterdam, John.
Yeah, it is.
It's not you.
It's 30 degrees plus, and it's really not. We're not equipped for this weather.
I'm getting freezing cold here.
We all agree on the company level competencies. We all agreed on the engineering level base competencies. Why don't we roll that out? Yeah, roll that out and start working with people on those specifically. And then work on collecting that feedback. What is missing? Rather than saying what we need to do. We just go a different route. And over time, not immediately, but over time, either the engineering competency is going to expand, which is possible, or we are going to get into a state where the engineering competency is like, we don't want to expand it anymore. Now we have department level competencies like UX, quality, right? Like I'm missing this part because it's really important for my job, type of thing. And that can be added over time. Again, like as long as we manage expectations, I feel, and say that no one is going to be prevented from progressing in their career because this is not a promotion document. This is a career coaching framework, right? So it's fine that the framework continues changing because the company is also changing. And like, that's something that I had to deal with multiple times when like, I didn't necessarily agree with that as well. But Eric made a lot of good points about, well, growth of the company, right? Like 2 years ago, it's not the same as now. And in a month, it's not going to be the same as now. So the one thing that we know that is going to remain the same is the company level and hopefully the base engineering level that we created.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I think we spent a lot of time on the engineering level stuff and we debated that a lot. And I don't see anybody pushing back on that. I would be comfortable with that as well. And I've got it on my to-do list to keep iterating on the development ones and put something together in an MR to propose, putting in different, and that might be the way to go. You know, let's roll out what is ready, and because even, you know, and I agree with you, even because all of this wasn't necessarily ready to work with my team, it doesn't mean I didn't start doing career development with them. I have, you know, I focused on other things so long. You know, what are their short and long-term goals in their career, and so the same can be done with we can start introducing the company values and having that as something for them to start looking at, and as well as the baseline engineering one. So yeah, I could definitely get behind.
How many people in engineering do you know that actually know all of our values and how to practice them day to day on their levels?
Yeah, that's
like that alone.
That in itself is enough reason to just put that out there and say, hey, start focusing on that. And even doing that will already show good growth.
Yeah, and then we can like as we go along, we can have working groups that are focusing on how do we package this up, right? Like we want to make this look pretty as well. We can have separate working groups within the departments, right? Like you have development is huge, and like I participate in this, but I also don't want to participate too much because I'm not in development, and even though I have opinions, I haven't been living in development for over a year now. So right, like it's a different world out there. So that could be like a smaller subset, because we bit off quite a big problem here, or not problem, quite a big challenge.
Yeah, it's a big, and I agree with you. It has the risk of dragging on and not getting to a point where we say, hey, there's something out there that's already ready to be used. Start focusing on that.
Yeah, and that we can also like that can easily be tied into management training as well. Because that is some, again, like we know how to do that, and then we're gonna start seeing, well, if I can figure out how to roll out the company level competencies with the tooling I have, maybe we need to also focus on the tooling to make that quicker.
Yeah.
Then tweak the language 5 times over within the, I don't know, 2-3 level down competencies.
All right. We're essentially at time, and I have to jump to another meeting. I think this sounds good. I think as facilitator, we probably need Dara to watch this recording when she's back from PTO, and we need our executive sponsor to kind of like agree with this as well. So I think we can carry this kind of like suggestion over to next week, and bring it to Darva's attention to have a look, and then you know, hopefully decide. Rose, I think Christopher is now the sponsor, not Eric.
Okay. I thought they were both still sponsored, but okay.
Well, yeah, I'm not sure. I think Eric delegated it to Christopher. So.
Oh.
Okay. Good.
Also, the link at the top doesn't work. We are no longer Plato Career Matrix.
Yes, that's right. It's just. I think it's
here.
engineering career matrices. I'll update the link now.
Yeah, thanks.
No, it's oh no, wait, yeah. And
it's updated.
The link I shared on the engineering matrices, that's the one which has everything, right? The technical competencies, but I missed the leadership competencies on this page. Oh no, here it is. Okay, found it. Sorry, my bad.
Cool. So yeah, I would love for the two of them to check it out and see what they think about the suggestion, and I'm happy to hear new ones. I just don't want to spend next 6 months tweaking language when we have a lot of work to do.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Thank you for the radical ideas, Maura. we thank the Netherlands weather for it was good ideas.
All right.
All right. Thanks everyone.
Bye-bye.
Bye.